this. And then I want to welcome everybody. So this is the second part of a two-part Deciphering campaign finance reports. And like I said, the first recording, we're recording it. We're going to put it out on our YouTube site. And I think Paul, I believe Our Revolution shared the link on their Facebook page as well. So this is, we're presenting this to you in partnership with Our Revolution Howard County. So it's Progressive Democrats of Howard County and Our Revolution, who are working to bring you guys stuff like this. We feel like it's really educational. It's voter education. It's for people who are thinking about running for something, just want to ask the candidates better questions, things like that. So I feel really good about what we did the last time, and I'm really looking forward to this time. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Nicole Dvorak, because she is the expert, and say, take it away, Nicole.
Yay. Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you to everyone who's participating this evening. Thank you to both Progressive Democrats of Howard County and Our Revolution Howard County for hosting this, promoting it, and, realizing this is an important topic and trying and helping people and facilitating a conversation about that and how to look up this information. I want people to be able to do that. It's public information, these campaign finance reports, and I just want people to know where to find it and search methods in the campaign finance search engine and where to find reports, and to do with that whatever you'd like to do, really. Again, it's public information and it's really pivotal information. This is what affects whether legislation exists in the first place, whether legislation lives or dies, if it's heavily amended to make a piece of legislation stronger, if it's amended to make it weaker, and overall what candidates and elected officials do and don't do, particularly the bigger donations. Unfortunately, sometimes donations are made in names or entity names that are hard to figure out. Like, you don't know who, Whiteboard LLC is. What is that? Sometimes it's clear or clearer than not, and sometimes it's just not. And that's another reason why I'm doing this, because candidates or elected officials, will say, I'm doing all these things, or this is how I voted on that thing, and this is why. But is it? When you don't have or know more about where their campaign money is coming from, it's not as clear of a picture as it might be. Now, are all candidates or elected officials doing terrible things? No, that's not what I'm saying, but it's just important for people to know where their campaign money and their funders, where the money is coming from and who some of those funders are, if not all of them. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to do a recap, of a fairly quick recap, but I'm not going to rush through it. We're just going to go through the main things that we talked about in session 1. So if you were in session 1, great. If you weren't, no problem. We're going to go through that information. I'm going to open that up to questions, and then we're going to go into another exciting realm, or at least what I think is an exciting realm of campaign finance. Dun-dun-dun. Suspense. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. Let's do this. Share. All right. Can everybody see that? I'm going to expand this. Again, if there are questions that pop up in the chat, let me know. Happy to answer them. All right. So, like we talked about last time, when it comes to searching for this, all you got to do is just type in Campaign Finance Maryland into, I'm going to minimize this. Type in Campaign Finance Maryland into your search bar, and then the first thing that comes up is the resource. This is the State Board of Elections campaign finance website. This is my go-to when I want to look up things. So what we went over last week, I pointed out some links over here on the side. I'll do that again. I want to point out the reporting schedule, which is what I pointed out last time. If you would like to see when candidates need to file their campaign finance reports, they have to do that many more times during an election year than they do in a non-election year. When it's not an election year, they only have to file their campaign finance reports, a year's worth of donations in January, only once. During election years, it's a very different story. So not only do they have to file a campaign finance report in January for the previous year's worth of donations, they need to file a pre-primary report in June. I believe, I don't know if the schedule is going to be adjusted, it might not.
Well, Nicole, hey, just to jump in real quick, there was a deadline last night. I think yesterday was a deadline.
Right,
everybody.
Yes, so that's correct. So if someone had not filed for candidacy prior to the January deadline or prior to this January campaign finance deadline, then that's absolutely correct. Thank you for stating that. So let's say someone decided they were going to file for office in March or February or even 2 weeks ago. You weren't a candidate yet. You hadn't filed anything. So you surely wouldn't be held to having to file for January, but absolutely right. Yesterday was the 20th was a deadline for filing a spring report. That's when you see this little superscript here. This report is only required for new committees that were not required to file the 22 annual report. So yes, thank you for pointing that out. So in addition to this date for anyone who had not filed after this January date, you'd have to file your report for yesterday. And then you've got these upcoming reporting dates. So for anyone who wants to put these on your calendar, I say go for it. And then the next day or 2 days later, you can see an update of what any candidate has taken in, how they've expended, et cetera, in the time span between the last reporting date and that date. So they've got a couple more before the primary, one before the general, well, that's a ballot issue date, and 2 before the general election, and then 1 in 2022 after the general. So I just want to go through that again, especially since those dates, those campaign filing dates have been moving targets because of the legal court related situations regarding district and so on. Okay. Any questions there? Anything in the chat that I might not see? All right, let's go back.
You're good.
Okay. Again, that's over here on the side. Lots of other good information here too, but you can look at that at your leisure. All right, so the 2 main links that I clicked on last time were this contributions link here, which goes to what I call it the search engine, and then also this reviewed filed reports, which was that, scroll down multiple pages of a full report the candidates have to file. And that not only includes donations made to their campaign, it also includes expenditures, transfers. Did they return any money? Let's say someone went online and said, I'm going to give this person $100, and then the candidate decided they were going to give that money back for whatever reason. That information is listed in a full report as well. So that was this link. And then if you wanted to do a search of, okay, I want to search for all the $6,000 donations made to this specific candidate in a particular time period, then you could do that here. And I'm going to click on that again. Oh, this is teeny tiny, isn't it? All right. All right, that's better. That's a lot better. Okay. So this is a handy summary that I talked through last time of, okay, how much can someone, an individual, give to a campaign in one election cycle? The current election cycle, as far as campaign finance is concerned, started January 1st of 2019, and it goes through the end of this year. So there's more information here as far as the limits go. $6,000 to any one political committee, a total of $24,000 to all political committees. So I technically could give, $1,000 to 24 different entities. It's a lot of money, at least to me. But that information is here for reference. We did talk about last time, considering we saw some pretty big dollar amounts donated to specific entities, that maybe there are loopholes that I'm not aware of in the law that do allow a, compilation of $40,000 by one individual and so on. I'm not aware of those, but I will certainly broadcast that information as I find it, as far as potential loopholes concerned. Okay, we're going to continue here. Okay, so this is the screen that we spent a decent amount of time on last time, as far as searching for, donations made in a particular name from a particular address in varying dollar amounts and to specific committees and in specific time periods. You could also, of course, leave the time period open. You could leave this receiver box open based on whatever you're interested. So if you just typed in, let's say you just typed in, you want to know maybe who by the last name of Smith. Let's just type in something random like Dan Cox, who is a Republican running for governor, and go. Okay, so if you wanted to do a search that way, you could do it that way. If you wanted to just figure out, let me kind of go a little bit bigger here. If you wanted to figure out who's donated $6,000, and again, definitely, if you just wanted to know who gave exactly $6,000 or one $6,000 donation or more than that to a particular person, then just put in 6,000. But if you want to know $6,000 and above to a certain point, then you definitely need to fill this box in with something. You could put $10,000, $100,000. I keep this number pretty big just in case there are some big numbers there, because that happens. So you want to know a specific dollar amount. All right, here we go. And here are those instances here, addresses. He transferred money from his, he has been a delegate in the State House of Delegates. So this dollar amount here reflects that he transferred that amount of money from the campaign committee that he had for his delegate account that I'm assuming, yes, the name was Dan Cox for delegate, I'm assuming. So he updated the name or changed, created a new committee with a different name. So when you see like friends of insert committee, they keep that sometimes pretty broad in case they run for different offices, which is common. Okay, any questions here or anything in particular someone would like me to look up while we're on this particular search. Feel free to mention anything. No?
Nope, let's keep going.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's go. Oh, yes. Fun fact. I don't think I mentioned this last time. I don't think it's referred to this very often, but there is an acronym for this. It's called MD-CRIS, C-R-I-S. That's the Maryland Campaign Reporting Information System. Just fun fact in case you hear someone refer to MD-CRIS, but I don't think it's a term used that often, but just so you know. All right, let's see if I can go. All right, we're just gonna, you might hear a cat meowing in the background. It's one of my cats. All right. So the other page that I referred to in the last session enables someone to find a full report that a candidate has filed. So we'll go there. View filed reports information. So we can do the same thing here. I'll search, we'll do Dan Cox again, just for kicks. Again, I have no particular reason for searching for his other than just because. So, all right. This was filed in January. So again, when you can start typing in a name, and then this system will say, okay, you typed in this, what from this? It'll start to populate options for you, typically. All right, so we'll click on this. All right, so let's open this up. Oh, actually, let me go a little bit. Let's do this. Okay, go back up to the top. So we've got some dates here. You can see a report due date. You can see the time period for which this information was compiled for. And this is a handy summary of what is included in detail below this summary. So you can see a summary of contributions. You can see information transfers, like this was the money received or that he transferred from his delegate campaign finance account that I'm assuming he closed afterwards. And then loans. You can also see information here. Did the person return any contributions? And also expenses. Well, also we're under expenditures here. So this is a pretty handy summary of what's below. If you just wanted to get an idea of what this what's happening with someone's campaign account. This is information that when I first started looking or being interested in finding detailed campaign finance information, part of it was because I would hear journalists say, you know, this candidate has X amount of cash on hand. And I thought, well, how did they find that? Like they know where to find that. Where can I find that? And so you can see that here. So this is how much money this candidate took in over the reporting period. This is how much they spent. And this is how much they have at the time that they filed this report. So closer to $300,000. So if you're interested in that specific information, this is where you would find that and how much money they spent. So below that is the more detailed information about who donated, their address, what amounts, and then again, typically depending on the office that the candidate is seeking, the higher level office it is, typically, of course, those reports are much longer because they're typically trying to take in, a lot of money. So I can't remember how many pages it said this was, but what all of this is a lot of this is the donations that they took in. But then, when you get to the bottom, you've got the other sections. Well, let's go back up. Like this says other receipts and in-kind contributions. Also important to note what those in-kind contributions are, because in-kind contributions are still, exchange that was made, so to speak, and important to know, to see well, does this candidate then feel obligated to that in-kind donor for whatever that donation was? That's typically food for maybe a fundraising event. Maybe it's the space for the fundraiser that was donated in kind that they would have otherwise had to pay for. This says here, campaign palm cards. This is a little disturbing. Donation of locally manufactured AR-15. I did not.
Of course.
Maybe I should have assumed that I would find something like that here, but honestly, I did not see that coming. So interesting things that are found in, sometimes found in in-kind contributions listings. Sometimes it's much less eventful than this. And again, is sometimes the cost of catering that was donated, etc. Oh my God. I will use this as an example of you sometimes just never know what you're going to find when you're looking in here. Sometimes, you don't really see, maybe you're looking for a particular thing and then you find something completely different. That happens to me all the time. It's just chock full of information here. You just never know. So anyway, you can see expenditures here as well. As I mentioned last time, sometimes this is fairly boring and typical, okay, the cost of a website, the cost of, whatever vendor we're using to process electronic payments, etc. Sometimes it's a lot more interesting. Sometimes it's consulting fees, which are also very common. So all sorts of different things here in the expenditure category. Okay, any questions related to how to find the reports, which we can go back to, or any different category or information here?
Hey, Nicole, I think there was a question in the chat about who has to file, what's the lowest level it goes to? To me, that would be someone like our slate that's running to be on the Democratic Central Committee. We all have to report.
Mm-hmm.
We filed with.
Actually, well, I can look. You're talking about the office being.
Yeah, what's the office level? So they were at it was Crystal who asked, it does the village board, but I don't think the village board, that's a different kind of campaign. I don't think they have to file with the county or anything like that. So I don't think they have to report, do they?
Right. I don't think that, when it comes to the village boards in Howard County, I think that is something that's considered comparable to an HOA, and
Right.
it's not considered, at least for legal purposes, or otherwise seeking public office, or the same that qualifies someone running for county council, as an example, who has to do that, and central committee. So as far as I know, you've got, of course, this anyone running for central committee in other places, counties, jurisdictions outside of Howard County that have town councils, mayors, that sort of thing. As far as I know, those running for those seats have to file. But that's my level of awareness when it comes to the offices, the more, I guess you could say, more local offices being sought that have to file. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a particular type of HOA that does have to. That's not something that I've heard of though, but that's a good
Yeah,
question.
yeah, it doesn't seem to me that they do.
There, I would not be surprised if there is an exception to this rule, and I just don't know what it is.
Right.
But yes, if I'm ever made aware of that, then I will share that. Maybe a town in another county, something like that. Right? Anything else related to the full reports, contributions, anything that we've covered thus far, maybe anything that we haven't? Just doing a check-in. Anybody? Is everything on the report in the database? So, great question. Let me pull something up. Let me go back to where we were here. If it will let me. All right, we're just going to go to my go-to. Nope. So one of the things that I didn't get into last time, partly because of time, but also we did cover a lot of information in the last session, is that if you did want to focus specifically on expenditures of a campaign, that's linked here. So when it comes to everything that is in a full report that's filed, I have not found that you can do a search specifically for, as an example, donations returned to a donor, donations that essentially were not accepted. Or let's see if there's anything else. I think that might be the exception. You know, I'm not sure that you could do a search for, you know, like, okay, I want to know how much cash on hand all the candidates for governor have. I'm not aware that you could do something like that. So to answer the question, to my knowledge, you can't do a search for all of the features that are in that full report. For most of it, you can, I would say, at least as far as donations and expenditures are concerned. And that can also capture, you know, transfers in between committees.
Nicole, if there's a donation, so I think that, like, I think I saw something Megan had where Dan Newberger had returned donations to Tom Cole and someone else.
Mhm.
So is it just appear, so even though it's on the report, does it end up on the contributions list, but there's a line item that says it was returned? So it's in that line, you can't search for it, but it's everything from the report is in the database. You just can't search for everything that's on the report. You would have to go through line by line maybe, or look up Tom Cole to see if they got contributions and what is the status of them.
So based on the searches that I've done, if you were to click on this link and go to contributions like we have done, and you wanted to find contributions ranging from $50 to $250 for a candidate in a particular time period, it's going to show you what all of those are. It's not going to show you simultaneously if any of them were returned. That's something that I've only seen in the full report, unfortunately. I really wish that there were, after someone's filed a report, that it was captured by that this and findable via that search engine, like with another column that says, indicates in any way, that donation was returned. I wish that were a feature. As far as the searches that I've done to date, that's not a feature, at least right now. that would be great to have in the
Yeah.
future. That would be
Yeah.
wonderful to have. Be like I would love for that search engine to be more like a spaceship, just find all sorts of things. But that's a great question. And it's an important question because, you know, if someone has, if it says that someone has made a contribution to a candidate, and maybe, you know, you don't like that that person contributed, it's important to know if that donation has been returned. One of the, now I lost my train of thought, but that's, it's really good information to know, especially because, you know, there could be one entity that's donated that, you know, is potentially a really big issue for any number of reasons that someone might have. So it's a great question. Anything else? I see things coming up in the chat. Let me look at that. Is everything, thanks. So for example, can I see all contributions from, oh, okay. Can I see all contributions from developers to a particular candidate? So if you know the name of the developers. So this is a great segue and to one item that I wanted to bring up this evening. So unless there are any other questions, then I'm definitely going to address that question of, can I see all contributions from developers or any other entity and what that looks like?
Yeah, go for it, Nicole.
Okay. All right. Exciting stuff. Okay, so I'm going to go to contributions. I go here and I am going to, let's see, oops, what happened there? Okay, pull up Calvin Ball's report. Now, part of the reason that I'm doing this is because County Executive Calvin Ball has accepted a lot of money from the land developer lobby and that industry as a whole. So that's why I'm using this as an example. I want to make it clear, as I did last time, that in 2018, I campaigned heavily for Calvin Ball, distributed a lot of material. I was very happy when he won, and then since then have become gravely disappointed that he has accepted this much money from the land developer lobby. So I want to make that clear. So one thing I'm going to do first is I'm going to put the time period in here again for this current 4-year election cycle in terms of campaign finance. That election cycle reporting period starts January 1st, 2019. And I always put in current date or close to it just because. So I'm going to look up donations starting at $1,000. You can choose something different. You can choose $500, but I always choose a pretty large number as the max to try and capture anything that might be above $6,000. So I'm going to hit search. So there's a lot to take in here. I'm going to go through the number of pages here at the very bottom, but I'm gonna, you know, bring up some of these as we go down the page. So we've got a number of people here who've donated on behalf of, I don't know how to pronounce this. We're going to say Buck Construction. We've got Meriwether Post Pavilion for anyone interested in that. Costello Construction, Exelon. And so you can see the donation amounts on the other side. Sometimes the employer, you know, people can put different information here. They could put, you know, that they're retired. They can put that, you know, they work from home, self-employed, whatever. I also want to point out that last time we did look up KO Public Affairs. Mr. Abruzzi is also a registered lobbyist with Howard Hughes. So I'm going to go to a few more pages that's going to segue into another item as well. So I'm going to Go here, Waverly Real Estate off at Kerman. Mr. Erskine is a lawyer who often has cases before the different boards in Howard County, planning board, zoning board. The county council simultaneously functions as the zoning board, and he represents clients there. Just wanted to mention that. We've got Chesapeake Contracting. I don't know much about them. Land Design and Development. Mainline Commercial Pools. Just going to go through some more here so you see it. The Traffic Group. This is an entity that creates traffic studies for anyone in Howard County and beyond interested in the traffic studies that are sometimes brought up in different hearings and meetings. Interesting that a particular vendor for those would be donating to elected officials.
You know, that's incredibly interesting, Nicole, that they're doing it, because, you know, like a lot of neighborhoods want, like we have here in my neighborhood, I live on Thunder Hill Road, and we have the speed humps. And of course, they did a traffic study, and we sit in between 175 and 108. So that's why there was a lot of through traffic and going really fast. So people want the speed traps. But they recently did another traffic study, and is that part of, you know, to show like what is adequate infrastructure for development? Is it tied to development in any way, or is it that they just want to do a ton of traffic studies and get money for that?
I mean, traffic studies are a pretty big deal when it comes to proposed development projects in Howard County, because they're sometimes wielded as, oh, look, this traffic study that maybe I, the developer, paid for. It shows that, you know, with these extra 500 units, you know, that it's not really going to affect the traffic very much.
Okay.
Oh, and then we did it another time. And, you know, it's so, I would love to know, I'm going to be honest with you, out of maybe all the traffic studies that have been submitted to the county in the past, let's just take the past year, maybe the past 2 years. I want to know which of any of those traffic studies said, you know what, this is going to be like, this is going to create a lot of traffic. Yeah, this is going to be a problem. Like, this is going to increase traffic to this amount. Like this is what it said, because I have a really bad feeling that maybe all of them say, yeah, no, everything's going to be fine. You know, we're putting in these 200 units, and you know, nothing really is going to change. It's just, you know, we don't think it's going to change.
You think saying like the developers are paying off the traffic study?
I think that for any vendor, and that includes vendors who are doing appraisals of property and et cetera, that there are developers and others who in some cases, pick vendors for specific reasons. I'm not here saying that like all vendors are up to no good and they're completely bought off, but I think it's very fair to say that some of them are preferred to others if a certain outcome is already predicted or perhaps paid for. So we've got some other things here. This is a law firm, Meriwether Post Pavilion showing up again, KO Public Affairs showing up again, Cornerstone Development, Project Enhancement Corporation. I have no idea what that is, but construction services. It's very much an industry. It's not just like, oh, like I'm a developer, I've purchased this land. It's an entire industry that's built on that. Real estate, realtors. So there was, let me see if it's on the next page. Those pages kind of evaporated. Sometimes that happens. Like you click on one page and then they all just disappear. That is a quirk of this. That's a quirk of this system. Sometimes you just have to refresh. But there is one thing that I want to point out here, or to get to the question that was in the chat. Can I see all contributions from developers to a particular candidate? So interesting question, because you can search by name. If you have a particular name in mind, you could search by donation amount. You could pull someone's full report and go line by line. Sometimes it's really clear, you know, by the name of the employer, if what the nature of their business or organization is. Sometimes it's not so clear. Like I have no idea what, and Michael, okay, it says it's real estate, right? But sometimes it's just not very clear at all. This employer occupation field can be helpful, but to answer the question, sometimes you just have to go line by line, and sometimes the nature of the entity is apparent, and sometimes it's just not, which is another reason why, and I'll give this a shout out for those who have heard of it or have not heard of it already. In Howard County, there's been created something called a No Developer Money Campaign Pledge. You know, it's really difficult for a person to know or to have any idea this level of detail of someone's campaign finances. Like, are all candidates, you know, accepting money from anyone and everyone? No, some of them have instituted self-imposed restrictions. Some of them are doing public financing when that's available to them. But sometimes it's just so hard to know what that is. So in committing to something like a pledge that has specified, you know, you can't accept money from LLCs, you can't accept money from, you know, just outright, you know, those who legally represent developers and otherwise, can be really helpful. So I want to stop there and take any questions on that. Anything? Okay. Segue into related, a new thing. I'm going to do a new thing. All right. So we're still looking into County Executive Calvin Ball's, his campaign finance report. So what was it? Executive Center. So we're just going to type in Executive Center. Now, what is Executive Center LLC? You know, they generally have been classified as a business group organization. Not really any information here about employer occupation. There are a couple of different names here. What is Executive Center Parcel DLP? It's anybody's guess, right? But they've given, or at least Executive Center LLC has given $6,000. This other entity also given $6,000. What does this mean? All right, this is where we're going to go into a new search item, a way to search for this information. This might be something that those on this call, some or many people on this call are aware of already, but we're going to do a search to figure out what name is associated with these entities. So what we're going to do is we're going to do LLC search Maryland. Oh gosh. Okay, that's what I wanted. So again, you can just type in LLC search Maryland and click on this first item here, egov.maryland.gov. All right, the Maryland Business Express registrations and filings. Save this page, everybody. Save the page. If someone can put this in the chat, that would be great. But save this. This is a very helpful resource. So what we have on this other page, we had Executive Center LLC. Let's figure out let's figure out what's happening here. Boop. Oh. So interesting, LLCs sometimes. So we have all sorts of things happening here. We've got Executive Center LLC, Parcel C, Parcel D, Limited Partnership General. So many different things happening here, yet very similar. Oh, look, this was dissolved. This was forfeited, active, revived. It's like a soap opera. So let's do a quick reference back to this page. So we've got listed here Executive Center LLC. We also have up here Executive Center Parcel D LP, fascinating name. They all share the same address. So what have we learned thus far? That a minimum of $3,000, $6,000, $9,000, $12,000 has come all from the same address. The cap is $6,000. The legal cap is $6,000. So let's see what's at these. So let's go to the active Executive Center LLC. Ah, resident agent, Samuel J. Mangione, 1205 York Road. Is there anyone on this call familiar with the last name Mangione? If you do, give it a shout out. Anybody?
Yes.
All right, let's hear it.
He's on, it's got that big property on, what is it, Route 40 there.
That's right.
Mangione is the way I say it.
Yes.
Mangione.
I could be pronouncing it wrong.
His family historically has owned lots of property along Route 40, and they've been selling it off bit by bit the whole time I've been here, last 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
Big developer.
Yep,
Big
they
developer.
are.
Republican.
They are well known for a property known to many by called Turf Valley.
Right, that's it.
Yes. So let's see what else is going on. So we've got, again, on this other page, Executive Center Parcel DLP. Fascinating name. All right. We've got Executive Center Parcel D LP, limited partnership. Let's see what's going on here. All right. Same address. This is Linda Licata. This M, when I did a Google search for this is Linda Mangione Licata. Fun information. So usually always very interesting information to be found by doing LLC searches.
Yeah, he had, those are his kids. He went on to his reward, and his kids are running everything now.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've got other stuff going on here. Let's click on Executive Center Parcel E, which is also active. What is this? Ah, Linda Mangione Licata. All right. This one was forfeited. Executive Center, I don't know what this is. Executive Center Professional Suites Incorporated. I don't know what that is. That might be something different, but I think you gather the point here. We could click on this one, which was forfeited, also in the name of Samuel J. Mangione. So, of course, I'm sharing this information, sharing this particular search engine so that others can use it as well. You see an LLC listed in someone's campaign finance reports. This is how you can find more information on it. Sometimes it leads you down a complete rabbit hole of, more information that's not particularly clear. Sometimes the information is more clear like this, but it is very interesting to see entities that will use the same name, change it a little bit, change it a little bit more, forfeit it, create a new one, dissolve it, revive it, create new ones that are active that sound similar, and then donate from some or all of them. Which is what.
So they get away with the limitations by it being the entity name and the individual in charge of the entity. And so that's how they can give so much from one family. It's individuals in that family giving.
Yep. So let's do another thing while we're here. So we'll still search in the county executives campaign finance reports, only this time we're going to do something a little different. We're going to take this popular address and we're going to do a search for that. Now, when I search for addresses, because I don't want the search to limit it, based on if it's listed as the abbreviated RD, I'll just put in something like 1205 York, or I'll do a search for the full word road, the abbreviation. I'll do all of that. Just wanted to share that. So I'm just going to put in 1205 York and let's see what comes up. Oh, what is this? We've got more. We've got Mary Mangione, who also donated using that address. Commercial Contractors, Inc., also donating. WCBM Maryland, Inc. I have no idea what that is. Donating from the same address. So at a minimum, on this page, you can see that the Mangione family has donated at least another six, $18,000 in one election cycle. But it gets better or worse, depending on how you look at it. We're just let's just do a search. Let's do this. So then Mary Mangione's, her donation on the previous page shows up here, but then we also have another one. I'm going to assume this person is in the same family. Maybe they're not, but if they are, another $4,000. So you can see where I'm going with this. Again, if we simply went back to this address and we use this as our search term, oops. If all of these entities are connected to this family, what we have listed over here is $30,000. So we've got 666, another 6, another 6. And that doesn't include Louis Mangione's donation from the previous page, which I think was 4,000.
10,000 on that other page from those two Mangiones.
Yeah,
So
I think
40,000. Now you're up to
well,
40,000.
I think on the previous page, we did capture this one
Yeah,
for
okay.
Mary. So we're looking at, again, if these entities here, commercial contractors, and then whatever this WCBM is, if we're pulling all of this together, we're looking at a minimum of $34,000 in donations from the Mangione family to the Calvin Ball campaign. Now, for reference, I did go in to pull up each of the full campaign finance reports for the past, all of which have been filed for this election cycle, and approximately $0 has been returned to donors, at least as listed on those reports. So, any questions? Any questions? There's just something in the chat.
Some of us are just stunned. No, I looked up Samuel Mangione on LinkedIn, and that's the title that came up for him. So I don't know, Nicole, if you want to look up commercial contractors, see how much they've donated.
We can. That's a great.
There they are. There they are.
That's a great question. Let's see. Well, okay, so that donation comes up. We can also do, you don't know. Again, one thing I would point out is I look for donations that were $1,000 and above. Okay, so at least under this name,
They've given the limit.
I do want to look up. I don't know if they would be listed here. Commercial. Oh,
There you go.
also, don't you just love the very general name, Commercial Contractors Inc.? I mean, it's very straightforward, but also let's click on the one that's active, shall we? All right, well, we would have to do some more searching here, but I mean, again, the point is that it shouldn't be this way, right? It just shouldn't. Who's gonna know this? Who's gonna know? Who's gonna know who Commercial Contractors is? Who's gonna know what that previous one was? WGBN, you know? What if we go?
Hey, Nicole, do you know, are these entities set up specifically so that they can donate?
That's a good question. I think that some of them are. I think that, you know, why do you have to change your name so often? Why are you changing your name often, but then also slightly? Parcel D, Parcel E. All right, we're gonna drop the parcel thing altogether, and we're gonna donate under Executive Center. We're gonna revive this one. We're gonna forfeit this one. We're gonna make this one active. Why would you go to all that trouble? Why would you? If not for one reason, to be able to abuse campaign finance laws.
Right. Can you click on that top one and see what that is? The
Sure,
one
we
that
can
says
go, we
one?
can go through these and see what's going on. Oh, look.
Yeah, okay, that's what, there she is, yeah.
So that's another thing. I mean, I find all of this information really interesting, but how many people are gonna get this far and then click on each and every single one of these? I don't know who's Edmund. I don't know, but we found Linda Mangione Licata here. But what, this was an old name? Okay,
Oh, there's
she's on this
yeah.
one. This is a mess. It is a mess. And for in some cases, when you've got, why is this even necessary? Inc. versus LLC versus Commercial Contractors Group. Why would you do it? It's just such a mess. And again, it should become the norm for candidates to say, I'm not accepting money from LLCs, unless it was something like Nicole Dvorak LLC. But again, sometimes you have people who are crafty enough to make something sound like it's something that's really not. You know, of course, the Mangione family is, you know, certainly in the business of construction, land development, sure. But what if they weren't? You know, I could donate under Nicole Dvorak LLC, but because I'm searching for this information, I would still want to double check. And again, who's got that time?
Question.
Yes.
I suppose someone in the state should be enforcing these rules and regulations, or can Howard County enforce these rules and regulations? Who's found responsibility for enforcement of these regulations? Where is it? Where does that lie? Do you know?
As far as I know, that's with the State Board of Elections. I do not know if the local Board of Elections do any enforcement regarding campaign finance donations or things specifically related to campaign finance reports. That is my understanding. I could be wrong, but I think at the very least, the State Board of Elections has to be monitoring these things and doing enforcement of campaign finance law.
Thank you.
Harry, if I find that information to be any different than what I just said, then I would surely let you know.
You would surely what?
I would surely let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Let you know, everybody know. Shout it from the rooftops.
Okay.
Also, if you see a cat tail, it's my cat.
Just a head for now. Nicole, I was gonna say, I mean, this is where we have like, we have a very, like, you can't, you depend on the news, on the press to dig into these things. And I think the press has been so dismantled over the past many decades. And
Yeah.
like here, at least even in Howard County, we have terrible, terrible coverage of the news that, just to date myself, growing up here in Columbia, we had the Columbia Flyer, and I think that they did have a pretty robust group of journalists who did real reporting on what was going on in specifically Columbia at the time. But as I was growing up, of course, Ellicott City and other places in the county were just really, growing by leaps and bounds. But I feel like we don't, we have Scotty's blog and he's giving that up. We really don't have anyone who's digging into these kinds of things anymore. So there's really no accountability.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up because it's that much harder. Again, like how many people are going to do this, or how many people have time, or, even know where to begin.
Right.
So it's totally right. I think there is certainly the tiny amount of coverage in general when it comes to politics across the state. It makes daylighting things like this in a broad way that much more difficult. So it comes down to individuals doing that on various platforms to the best that they can, and others sharing that as well. And then also anyone like Scotty, deciding that
Yeah.
they would, create a blog, create a website, that sort of thing. What other questions are there? Comments otherwise?
Do you want to talk about my question that I posed at the very beginning, is how do you, if you're looking at this stuff and you see something that seems wrong, you want to lodge a complaint or you want to ask a question, how do you go about doing that with the Board of Elections?
So I've only started to do that that effort as far as reaching out to the State Board of Elections, trying to figure out who I talked to. I was informed to by making calls and kind of being transferred to reach out to Jerry Demarinis, who works for the State Board of Elections, and that's who I have reached out to with some of this information. I'm not really sure. I think as an election year it goes, it's pretty busy at State Board of Elections, but I still was disappointed in how much effort it took to get any information or response back. And then the response that I did receive back was, we have received your complaint. And that was it.
Okay.
So I don't really have a lot of information yet on, is there, I certainly inquired as to like, is there something, that I have to fill out? What do I have to do next? What happens next? And I don't have any of that information yet. So if anybody else, has more information as far as that concerned, I certainly would be happy to hear that. But otherwise, as I discover more information, then I will certainly share it. But thank you for the question.
Oh, you're welcome. Hey, so Paul had a question about searching on Costello, and
Oh, okay.
then Oscar has his hand raised. So,
Okay, what was the question on Costello?
Paul, do you want to elaborate?
Because we can go back.
No, my question was, can we search around Costello and see where that leads us?
All right, let's do that. So I am leaving this receiver field open. It's still for the current election cycle and starting with $100 in that. Let's see. So I don't know.
We didn't, I think when you did it, it was every donation that Costello has ever made. To
No,
whoever.
I
So
did
Peter-
do it for the current election cycle.
Yeah, but the Peter Francho is top, so it shows who everyone, like David Costello, oh, there's Tom Costello. Is that the person you were looking for, Paul, on the second line? Although David Costello is part of Costello Construction on Wincope and Circle there. Sorry, I can't speak anymore. Too many C's in that sentence.
Yeah, I don't know who listed here. I mean, of course, there's this address, the Wincope and Circle address. So I'm assuming that this David Costello is with, well, it's listed here, Costello Construction.
Yeah,
Um,
Wincope and Circle, Costello Construction. But he may have other, LLCs or who knows?
Yeah,
I would love
it's-
to see everyone he's given money to, Paul, because I bet he's spreading it. Not like here it shows Peter Francho, it shows Guy Guzzoni, but I wonder if he's spreading the wealth. Like, is he also giving to Republicans?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think if you are someone who has business clients in a number of jurisdictions, then and you have the money to spend, then you certainly would to both parties. All right, I'm going to put in David. Okay, so it looks like most of these are from the same address, couple, maybe 2 different addresses, but this is what comes up when I type in the last name Costello and the first name David. I don't know what other names, including those with the last name Costello, we might be searching for. When I, what was that? It was probably a couple years ago, tried to find donations made on behalf of Maglev. I went to the company's website and searched all the names of their executive staff. And sometimes that produces information here. Sometimes, putting in the CEO, the COO, usually not the CFO, because that's, at least for some of them, crosses a line, but president, sometimes board members as well. So that's also a thing, as you can imagine. Does this help, Paul?
Sure, I mean, that's interesting, but looking at Costello, remind me, when we were roaming around Calvin Ball, there was the Costello name popped up, but I don't see it cross-referenced here. Am I missing something, or is somebody missing something?
That's a good question. Let's see what comes up when it might be just the donation might have been made in a slightly different name. Let's see what that looks like. No.
Take Costello out again and see what's in the list.
Oh, you know what? I think I'm searching the wrong campaign account. This one. And let me take this back down to 100, though I think that the donation we saw earlier was 1,000. I don't think that's what we saw earlier.
No,
All right, let's do this then.
We saw it somewhere.
Yeah.
I
let's
Yes.
see. Okay, so this donation was made in the name of Costello Construction, not in the name of David Costello.
Same address though, right, Nicole?
yeah,
Yes,
I'm shocked.
well, this is a good question. All right, let's see. It's a good exercise. Let's do this. I'm gonna put this street here. Gonna remove names. Let's take this back down to 100. And wait a minute, I don't think I copied that correctly. It's 1.
Yeah, you missed the one in front.
102. Let's see what this does.
Holy cow.
I don't know what this
Katie
is.
Hester, Katie Fry Hester's on there.
I don't know what Plaxton and Adler is. I mean,
And they're all in the same suite, 620.
yeah.
If
Oh
you
no,
look at
there's
those first
Suite
two.
100. There's Suite 620. Looks like Plaxton and Adler. Oh, this is interesting. Build the building industry pack. Huh. Also another LLC. This is an LLC that has a bunch of names. Maybe that's the same. Maybe these are the same names that come up when you do the LLC search. Maybe not. I don't know who Donna Goodman is. I don't know what this is. Davis, Agnor, Papaport, and Skalny. Oh. I do recognize the last name Skalny. There are this as a this is one or more lawyers, Howard County lawyers. Let's see. And giving to David Youngman. All right, let's see what else is here. What suite is Costello? Suite 100? Suite 100 is
Yeah,
down
there's-
here.
there's the- There's the
IMH.
$6,000 for Calvin, the fourth one from the top, right?
From the previous page, let's see.
No, from that page.
The page you were on.
Oh, from the
Nicole.
second page, I'm sorry.
We saw that one before. It's $6,000 for Calvin, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, this one here.
But on the bottom, you got another 12,000 from
Oh,
people in
yeah.
the same suite.
Thank you.
If those are your LLCs.
Like, what is Rose Hill Farm LLC? You have IMH Columbia LLC Hotel Operations. All right, let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at this in the LLC search.
Same
Also,
address, same suite number,
same
100.
address, suite number. I need to plug in my computer. Oversight on my part. I don't want it to to burn out while we're here. All right. I feel like I need the Jeopardy music in the background. All right, 1 second. Okay. All right, let's look up this IMH Columbia in the business search. Let's figure this out. Oh, is that a taxi or is it not? I don't know. All right. We'll do the CAPTCHA. Do the CAPTCHA. I don't know if that was a taxi. All right. Okay, this is the same name associated with
The law firm
with what I believe is
gave
law firm.
$6,000 to, who did they give it to? They gave it to Youngman and then they gave to Paul, they gave to Calvin Ball. That's interesting. I thought they gave in both places. I thought when we looked on page 1 at the bottom, that law firm was on there. You recognize the spelling name?
You know what? You're right. In which case they would be able to, if they have, they could donate. It's interesting. Why does this say hotel operations? Were they involved or did they represent Costello? I don't know. But it's interesting that they would also try to donate here through this LLC. And then, what just happened?
Yeah, go to the bottom because they donated $2,500 to David Youngman.
Yeah, but it would be interesting to know. See, that's the thing. Like, had we not looked up IMH Columbia, because they've got,
Yeah,
they've got a donation here to Peter Francho. This means they could donate there's no limit on how much someone can donate if you have multiple different entities donating. If the cap is 24,000, you could blow right through that.
Yeah. Hey, Oscar, do you still have your question? Do you want to ask?
I just wanted to ask something very general. Is this issue legal? I mean, are the problems legal? Are the problems ethical? Or are the problems moral?
I would go with ethical and moral.
I mean, I think the answers would vary on based on who you asked. I would tend to identify them as all three.
So,
I would go with that because you do have stated rules or stated regulations that supposedly puts limit on what one does, and it appears that a lot of people are not paying attention to the limits, and therefore they should be subject to some type of legal constraint.
Yeah, I think that some people are very aware of what the limits are, and then they go to these other lengths to be able to get around those limits, for sure. Like, why would you go to the trouble? Why would you go to the trouble of doing this?
Because you got a multi-million-dollar project that you want to get through, and you're going to make money on it. You're going to make
Exactly.
1,000 times of what you, in terms of cash and effort that you put in to do this.
Exactly. I mean, I think, we haven't really talked a lot about, lawyers donating, which on the surface might not seem like a big deal. And certainly they can, that's their, they can donate just like anyone else can. But, when you see those entities donating, you have no idea who all of their clients are. Some of their clients, you might think like, okay, those clients are great. I might have a differing opinion, but we don't know. We're also not, privy to all of that information. Yes, that's private information, unless they want to share that, on their website or the law firm's website, like here's some of our clients, that sort of thing. So that's another thing. Like, what is this? What did they want? And that's another thing. What do these donors want? Or what did they get? Because that's another thing. There's the donations that then inspire, or they're donating because they desire a certain outcome. But then there is that or a donation when a certain outcome is achieved. The timing of these sometimes very much coincides with those things. So
I'm sorry, is this, this is at this is at the state level or the county level? Or both?
This is both.
I'm sorry?
Both.
Okay. So what I'm trying to get my head wrapped around is a point of reference. So I ran for city council in College Park a few times. And so I'm trying to figure out, when I was running along with other folks, we went through ethics training, we went through all the rules and regulations, and we had attorneys that were very insistent on, making sure that everybody, and with disclosure and forms and so forth, making sure that everybody was on the up and up and didn't cross the line. So so I'm trying to come, based on that experience, I'm trying to see how my experience relates to this. And I can't help but walk away with the notion that a lot of this stuff, yeah, people may try to go around it, but there should be some kind of penalty involved with it. I'm tempted to go to some folks that I know in the state legislature and find out what their opinion is on things. The fact that the state board or folks that work for them, and that's why I was asking at the county level. I'm used to talking to the folks in Prince George's County, but the fact that they throw, we don't have enough personnel, which I've heard before, with impunity as a well, we just don't, we can't get to it, is not something that I walked away with as an excuse. I mean, it's like, well, you don't have enough personnel, and so what? It's still not legal. And so anyway, so that's why I'm asking.
Yeah. No, I would love to know more, about your experience and, in particularly in other jurisdictions by comparison, because of course in Howard County, we don't have municipal elections. We don't have elections for mayors. We don't have town councils. We don't have any of that. We have we have the county council, 5 people. We have a county executive, and then we have the campaign committees, the Democratic, Republican central committees, and then of course, a handful of others like, state's attorney, sheriff, that sort of thing. But, we don't have a, Ellicott City Town Council, as an example. We don't have that. So, I mean, I would certainly love to know, more about what other experience that others have had in other jurisdictions, for sure, for a frame of reference, because, well, for many reasons, but one of them being like, I'm in looking at Howard County candidates, reports all the time, but, again, I'd love to know more. So maybe we can catch up at some point, or otherwise.
Mhm. One of the things that in Prince George's County, for instance, it's not that they don't play games. And perhaps I'm sure that if I went through the roster, I think the last time I was here at part 1, and I mentioned about an Excel spreadsheet download and figuring that stuff out that way. But what in Prince George's County, they just changed the rules. So term limits, they just the county council would just add more people to. I think they had as opposed to council members, they added folks that represented everybody. They added 2 more seats to it.
Oh, at-large
And-
seats?
At large, yeah. So
Council.
yes, and then in the city of College Park, for instance, they're trying to get their terms extended more. So the argument is, well, what's wrong with the way the system is now, and so forth and so on. So they go and change the charters, they change the rules, and then they go try to manipulate it that way. This is interesting, the database, but it's like you mentioned, and other folks in this discussion, it sort of smacks you in the face just by looking at, and so I walk away with like, well, this is so obvious. It's somebody, approaching the state board of elections would be like you're doing, would be something that you just can't walk away with, and so I would be interested to find out from the legislators what their opinion is on this. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool. Good job.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I really want this. I mean, it's informative on its own, regardless if I'm here going through any of it. But you know, it's when I first started looking at this, I was like, there's so much information here. It's almost like going to an event without having to go to an event. You know, you see who's who's desiring some sort of level of influence. I mean, of course, you know, anyone could look at maybe a donation of $100 and think, well, there's not much to that, but you know, it could be a lot more, or there's more to that, or, you know, and then these larger donations. So I obviously have wanted to point this out as a resource for other people to use, to look up information. And, you know, I, of course, hope that legislation at a minimum at the state level, you know, can finally pass or be introduced that really, you know, inspires or requires more restriction and or transparency around campaign donations. You know, whether that's, okay, we can't accept money from lobbyists. It's very interesting that legislation does pass by elected officials who've accepted money from lobbyists, you know, or LLCs, whatever that is. I hope that it inspires more support for that sort of legislation. And then just, you know, everyone having a better idea of how this goes, because I'm sure everyone has seen something happen politically, you know, legislatively, and gone like, why did that thing happen? You know, we might never know all the reasons, but sometimes this is part of the reason. So.
Yeah. Hey, so Nicole, so we're at time.
Okay.
I thought tonight's discussion was awesome. I want to mention a few things to everybody before we leave tonight. So first of all, Nicole, excellent job. This was so informative. I think it really shines a light on, number one, the resources that we have available to individuals to look into things, like we said, to become a more informed voter, you know, a more informed citizen. But also I think it emphasizes things that, like Nicole said, not the legislation that just passed about taking money from lobbyists, but also the Citizens Election Fund that we have in Howard County and how we really want candidates to use that. The fact that we're really strongly encouraging candidates to sign the pledge, no developer, no dark money here in Howard County. And that some of the candidates, we've got 7 candidates so far, and I know there are more, who have signed the pledge, which means it makes it that much more important for us who are advocating for this stuff that, you know, set some time aside. I know a lot of people are very active, but to set some time aside to volunteer for that candidate. So, you know, someone like Liz Walsh, who has a primary opponent, Liz has signed the pledge. She's going to be relying on small dollar donations. She's going to be relying on the Citizens Election Fund. She's taken the pledge. She's a perfect person that, you know, you might want to consider spending some time knocking on doors for and encouraging other people to do the same if you can. So a little soapboxy, I know that, but I think that's the responsibility that we have now, is to make the things that we've been advocating for successful. And with that, I mean, I'm going to let people go unless there are any final questions or things. I'm going to hit stop recording.